Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Exploring AWS. Now, our first video of the morning is going to be exploring the different cloud deployment models. Now, as you're tinkering with AWS, as you're lighting up some EC2 instances, you're looking at some PaaS services, which are some different services like DynamoDB and EFS shares and things like that. We'll go through what the different types of services are a little bit later on. But as you're going through this, it's probably important that you understand the three most common or three primary deployment models that most customers have in their organization or throughout their cloud deployment. So there's three primary ones that you're going to really need to know or that you want to be familiar with. The first one, and by the way, these are not in any particular order. The first one is going to be on-premise. Now, these are going to be your traditional data centers. This is where you may have something like Cisco ACI, and underneath that you have VMware, and then you have the mix of your bare metal servers and your virtual servers. But this is all something that you have to maintain. And a common nickname for this is private cloud. So this is something where, by the way, disclaimer, I always love this joke. There's no such thing as the cloud. It's really somebody else's computer. If you keep that in mind, private cloud makes perfect sense because this is your data center or data centers, right? This is something that you have to maintain. You have to worry about the maintenance and the migrations, and you have to worry about, the power and the outages, and you have to worry about the air conditioning and all those facilities that you have within your data center. You have to manage the switches, the routers. You have to manage all of those things you have hands on. So on-premise is your traditional data center that I think we've been used to for probably the last 25, 30 years. The second deployment model is fully cloud. So in the second deployment model, this is where all of your applications, all of your workloads are going to be distributed within a cloud resource. And in reality, even though this is an AWS video series, it doesn't necessarily have to be AWS. It could be a mix of different cloud providers. So you could have some cloud providers in Google Private Cloud, or you could have some of your workloads in AWS, and you could have connections between the two. You can have all sorts of stuff going on. But the reality is that in a cloud deployment, you would have no resources on-prem minus a few, right? You may have some on-prem file servers or some on-prem print servers, if you're still into that kind of thing. But mostly your primary production workloads are going to be fully deployed in the cloud. You're really not going to have anything on premises. And we would call this the public cloud. And that kind of makes sense, right? Where you're going to have the private cloud as your own on-prem data center. The public cloud is going to be something that's essentially available to the public running out in AWS. Now, the third model, and this guy here is the most common that I see with all of my customers, and that's due to customers getting their feet wet with AWS or any cloud provider, right? They're trying to see, hey, is this going to work for us? Is it going to be cost effective? Who's going to get trained on it? Is it going to be easy to manage our resources? What's going to happen when we have an outage? Are we going to be able to get the support we need? Or are we going to be able to reach those servers and get them back up and running in time? Are we going to have the remote access we need? I mean, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons why customers have this hybrid approach. But I would say probably 98 to 99% of my customers that I deal with on a daily basis have the deployment model of a hybrid cloud where they're going to have some applications, and this could be a lot of applications. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or two. They could have hundreds of applications that are in the cloud. But then they still have their on-prem deployment of bare metal and virtual servers. And you can see, obviously, I work for Cisco, so obviously I'm putting in ACI and Meraki and things like that. But regardless of the hypervisor or network infrastructure you have, I mean, if you're into Juniper, then I'm sorry for you, but it is what it is. Anyway, so if you have this hybrid model, what's going to happen is essentially you'd have some kind of VPN. Typically, this is what I see, where you have some type of VPN connection between your cloud deployment, within your VPC in AWS and within your on-prem workloads, so that your bare metal, let's say your bare metal database servers that maybe you have on-prem can still reach that web server or vice versa. So this is the deployment model that I see most often, where you still have your private cloud that you're maintaining. And this could be, again, you may have customers or you may be a customer that has multiple data centers that you're not going to get rid of anytime soon. And so you still maintain those on-prem data centers, but anything new, and this is what we would call net new. Again, this is kind of what I see most often. Net new is going to go to the cloud. So the first thing that we're going to explore when we have a new application, or somebody comes to us and says, "Hey, we're going to be turning up a new network or whatever it is," we say, "Okay, can we support it in the cloud, and what will be the cost of that?" And we go and we evaluate putting this thing in the cloud first before we even look at putting it on-prem. And if it's cost effective, it goes to the cloud. If there is some reason or some justification where, hey, the cloud just is not going to support the use case and what these applications or what these workloads need to do, then we'll back up and we'll put it on-prem. But again, this is the most common deployment model that customers have today, because they're still dabbling, right? They're still trying to get things moved to the cloud. And let's face it, migrating and getting rid of these on-prem data centers, they do take some time. So again, number 3 is probably the one I see most often. But these are the 3 deployment models that you're going to need to know, especially if you're studying for your cloud practitioner exam, or you're just even getting into AWS or any cloud provider. You're going to want to know the 3 main deployment models that are available to you.